I was 20 years old when my mother handed me a grocery store cupcake with a single crooked candle and said, "Happy 20th, sweetie," while my 13-year-old brother Tyler screamed bloody murder in the background about his broken gaming console. Our family room sparkled with colorful streamers I had hung myself that morning, expecting 50 guests for my milestone birthday celebration. Tyler hurled his wireless controller across the hardwood floor, shouting at the top of his lungs, "If I can't game today, nobody gets to celebrate anything in this house." Mom immediately spun around to face me, with those apologetic brown eyes I knew too well, opening her mouth to speak the words that would shatter everything. "Washington, honey, I need to talk to you about today." Mom's voice carried that familiar tone she used whenever Tyler's latest meltdown was about to ruin something important for our family. She set the pathetic cupcake down on our granite kitchen counter, right next to the elaborate 3-layer chocolate cake I had special ordered from the bakery downtown. Tyler continued his theatrical breakdown in the living room, throwing cushions off our leather couch and kicking at the coffee table legs. "This is the worst day of my entire life," he wailed, his voice cracking with false emotion. "Washington totally broke my console by hogging all the internet last night with his stupid party planning calls." I stared at my mother in complete disbelief. "Mom, I was on video chat with Jake for maybe 20 minutes last night planning the playlist. Tyler's console has been glitching for weeks because he rage quits every time he starts losing." "I know, sweetheart, but Tyler is really upset right now." Mom wrung her hands together, a nervous habit she'd developed since Dad moved out 3 years ago. "He called your father this morning, threatening to pack his bags and move in with Robert permanently if we don't fix this situation immediately." My stomach dropped like a stone. Dad had been fighting for joint custody ever since the divorce, and Mom lived in constant fear of losing her precious baby boy to her ex-husband's more relaxed household. Tyler knew exactly which buttons to push to get his way. "So what are you saying exactly?" I asked, though the sinking feeling in my chest already knew the answer. "Well, I was thinking we could postpone your party until next weekend. Tyler needs a gaming recovery celebration today to help him feel better about his broken console." Mom's words came out in a rushed jumble, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. "I could use your college fund money to drive over to Best Buy right now and get him the newest PlayStation setup, plus some games to make up for his disappointment." I felt the blood drain from my face. "You want to cancel my 20th birthday party and spend my college savings on Tyler's tantrum?" "It's not a tantrum, Washington. He's genuinely heartbroken about losing his gaming progress." Mom glanced toward the living room where Tyler had moved on, to dramatically sobbing into his hands. "Besides, all your friends will understand. Jake seems very mature for his age." I pulled out my phone and saw 17 text messages from friends asking what time to arrive, what to bring, whether they should park on the street or in our driveway. These people had cleared their Saturday schedules, bought gifts, arranged rides. My girlfriend Megan had spent all week helping me plan games and decorations. "Mom, I invited 50 people. They're already on their way." I started calling everyone an hour ago to let them know about the change of plans. She avoided my eyes, focusing instead on Tyler's continued performance. "I told them you came down with food poisoning and needed to reschedule." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. "You already canceled my party without even talking to me first." "Tyler was so upset, honey. I had to act fast before he called your father again." Mom's voice got smaller, more defensive. "I thought you'd understand. You've always been so good about putting family first." Tyler's sobs mysteriously stopped the moment he heard Mom defending his cause. He poked his head around the corner with red-rimmed eyes that didn't look genuinely upset at all. "Washington never thinks about anyone except himself anyway. This party was just an excuse for him to show off in front of his friends." "That's not true, Tyler." But even as I said it, I could see Mom nodding along with his words. "You got to have a huge party for your 13th birthday." I reminded my brother, trying to keep my voice level. "I helped you plan it. Remember, I spent my own money on decorations and stayed up until 2 in the morning, making goodie bags for your friends." Tyler rolled his eyes dramatically. That was completely different. 13 is an important age. 20 is just another boring adult birthday. 20 is a milestone, Tyler. It's when someone legally becomes an adult in every way. Well, maybe when you learn to share better and stop hogging family resources, you can earn the right to celebrate. Tyler's voice carried a smugness that made my skin crawl. Besides, Mom already promised me we could use all your decorations for my gaming party. Waste not, want not, right? I looked around at the streamers, balloons, and banners I had carefully arranged that morning. The Happy Birthday Washington sign hung crooked, now one corner torn, where Tyler had apparently tried to pull it down. My birthday napkins sat stacked on the counter next to Tyler's favorite snacks, which Mom had apparently added to my party supplies. I can't believe this is happening. Washington, please don't make this harder than it already is. Mom's voice took on that pleading tone she used whenever she wanted me to be the bigger person. Tyler is going through a really difficult phase right now. Dr. Martinez says it's normal for boys his age to act out when they feel overshadowed by older siblings. Dr. Martinez said that I had never heard Mom mention Tyler seeing a therapist. Well, I read it in an article online that quoted Dr. Martinez from some parenting website. Mom's cheeks flushed pink. The point is, Tyler needs extra support right now, and you're mature enough to understand that sometimes we have to make sacrifices for family. Tyler wandered back into the kitchen, his tears completely dry now, and grabbed a handful of the expensive imported chocolate I had bought specifically for my party guests. When is my gaming setup going to be ready, Mom? My friends are coming over at 3 to help me test all the new equipment. I'll head to the store as soon as I finish explaining everything to Washington. Mom was already reaching for her purse and car keys. Do you want the standard controller package or the premium bundle with the racing wheel and motion sensors? Premium, obviously. Tyler shot me a victorious smirk. Washington can help me set everything up when you get back. Consider it his birthday gift to me. This is insane. I grabbed the birthday cake from the counter, suddenly needing to do something with my hands. I'm going to call Jake and tell him the truth about what's happening here. You absolutely will not embarrass this family by telling your friends that Tyler had an emotional crisis. Mom's voice turned sharp, the way it did whenever she felt her authority being challenged. You'll stick to the food poisoning story, and you'll help your brother enjoy his recovery celebration like a good big brother should. Tyler clapped his hands together excitedly. This is going to be the best gaming party ever. Thanks for understanding, Washington. I knew you'd come around eventually. I stared at my little brother, really seeing him clearly for the first time in years. The calculated way he had timed his breakdown right before my party. The strategic mention of calling Dad. The seamless transition from sobbing victim to triumphant winner. Everything about this situation felt orchestrated, planned, deliberate. How long have you been planning this, Tyler? Planning what? But his eyes flickered with something that looked almost like panic. This whole breakdown. The timing is pretty convenient, don't you think? I don't know what you mean. Tyler's voice got higher, defensive. My console just happened to break this morning. It's not my fault your party got scheduled for the same day as my crisis. Mom stepped between us before I could respond. That's enough, Washington. Your brother is not some master manipulator plotting against your happiness. He's a hurt child who needs his family's support. I looked at the woman who had raised me, who had taught me to always tell the truth and treat others with kindness, who had grounded me for a week when I was Tyler's age, just for lying about finishing my homework. She was choosing to believe Tyler's obvious manipulation over her own eyes and common sense. Fine. I set the birthday cake back down with more force than necessary. Enjoy your gaming party, Tyler. I hope it's everything you dreamed of. Tyler's grin widened. It will be, especially since I won't have to worry about sharing the attention with anyone else's boring birthday celebration. As I walked toward the staircase, I heard Mom calling after me. Washington, honey, you can still have the cupcake, and maybe we can watch a movie together tonight after Tyler's friends go home. But I was already climbing the stairs, my mind racing with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, I was seeing my family dynamics with adult eyes, instead of the patient, understanding perspective of the family peacemaker I had always been trained to be. Tyler had just taught me something valuable about power manipulation and the price of being the mature one in a family system built around managing his emotions. The question now was what I planned to do with that education. I slammed my bedroom door harder than necessary and collapsed onto my unmade bed, staring at the ceiling, while Tyler's victory celebration echoed through the house below. My phone buzzed continuously with confused texts from friends asking about my sudden illness and whether I needed anything. Each message felt like another small knife twist in my chest. Jake had written, "Dude, your mom sounded really weird on the phone. Are you actually sick? Or is something else going on?" I started to type back the food poisoning lie, then stopped. Something about the whole situation felt too calculated, too convenient. Tyler's console had been working perfectly fine yesterday evening when I passed his room and heard him screaming at his online teammates about respawn times. My curiosity got the better of me. I snuck down the hallway to Tyler's bedroom, while Mom made her Best Buy run, and Tyler reorganized my party snacks in the kitchen. His door was slightly ajar, and his computer screen was still glowing with an active chat window. I know I shouldn't have looked, but something made me push the door open just wide enough to see his monitor clearly. Tyler's Discord chat was open to a group conversation with his 3 closest friends. The messages made my blood run cold. Phase 3 complete. Tyler had written just 20 minutes earlier. Operation Big Brother Takedown worked perfectly. Mom totally bought the broken console story and canceled his stupid party. My hands started shaking as I scrolled up to read the earlier messages. "Wait, you actually faked breaking your PlayStation just to ruin Washington's birthday?" His friend Connor had written back. "Obviously. I've been planning this for weeks. Washington gets way too much attention in this house, and I'm sick of playing second fiddle to Mr. Perfect." That's pretty harsh, man. Wasn't he the one who helped you pass 7th grade math? Whatever. He thinks he's so smart with his college plans and his job at that gross auto shop. Mom needs to remember who her real favorite child should be. I scrolled down further and found messages from earlier in the week that made my stomach lurch. Step 1 was getting rid of his annoying girlfriend. Tyler had bragged to his friends. I called Megan and told her Washington was cheating on her with some girl from work. She totally believed it and dumped him over text. So pathetic. My brain struggled to process this information. Megan had broken up with me 3 weeks ago via a cold, brutal text message, claiming she had heard rumors about my loyalty. I had spent days trying to figure out what I had done wrong, replaying every interaction we'd had for signs of trouble. The breakup had devastated me because it seemed to come from nowhere. Tyler had destroyed my relationship deliberately, systematically, as part of some twisted game. I kept reading my horror growing with each new revelation. Step 2 was intercepting his college mail. Tyler continued in the chat. I convinced Mom that Washington was getting too distracted by outside opportunities and needed to focus on helping our family more. She's been throwing away anything that looks official before he gets home from work. You're seriously messing with his future, Tyler. That seems like going too far. He's 19 years old, Connor. He can handle a little setback. Besides, someone needs to keep him grounded before his ego gets completely out of control. My hands were trembling so badly, I could barely scroll through the chat history. 3 weeks of Tyler systematically sabotaging different areas of my life, while I had no idea what was happening. I found messages about Tyler calling my job at Frank's auto shop to tell my boss that I was planning to quit without notice. Frank had mentioned feeling confused about my career uncertainty lately, and now I understood why. Tyler had been planting seeds of doubt about my reliability and commitment. The final piece of evidence was a voice message Tyler had sent to his friends just yesterday. The birthday party is going to be the grand finale. Tyler's recorded voice whispered through my phone's speakers. I'm going to create a massive crisis right before all his friends show up. Mom will have to choose between my emotional emergency and his stupid celebration. Guess who's going to win? One of his friends had responded with concern. Tyler, this is getting really mean. Washington has always been nice to you. Nice is boring. I want him out of this house, so I can be the only child again like I was supposed to be, before Mom and Dad had their midlife crisis baby. Once I prove to Mom that choosing me over him makes everyone happier, she'll start seeing things my way permanently. I sat back in Tyler's desk chair, my mind reeling. This wasn't just a spontaneous tantrum or typical sibling rivalry. Tyler had been conducting a calculated campaign to isolate me from my support systems and drive me out of the family home. The most chilling part was how well it had been working. Megan was gone. My boss was questioning my commitment. My college opportunities were being intercepted. And Mom was so focused on managing Tyler's manufactured crises that she couldn't see the manipulation happening right under her nose. I heard Tyler's footsteps on the stairs and quickly minimized his chat windows, but not before screenshotting the most damaging conversations. If I was going to confront this situation, I needed evidence. "What are you doing in my room?" Tyler's voice carried a note of suspicion as he appeared in his doorway. "I heard your computer making noise and wanted to make sure everything was okay." I kept my voice steady, not wanting to reveal what I had discovered yet. "Isn't your console broken?" "My computer's fine. The PlayStation is the broken thing." Tyler moved to block my view of his screen. "Mom should be back with my new setup soon, so you can get out now." "Sure thing, little brother." I stood up slowly, studying his face for any hint of guilt or remorse. "Enjoy your gaming party." Tyler's expression remained smug and satisfied. "Oh, I will. This turned out to be an even better day than I originally planned." As I walked back to my own room, Tyler called after me. "And Washington, thanks for being so understanding about everything. It really shows what kind of person you are." I closed my bedroom door and leaned against it, my heart pounding. Tyler felt no remorse whatsoever about destroying my relationship, my job prospects, my educational opportunities, and now my milestone birthday celebration. If anything, he seemed energized by his success. The scariest realization was that this wouldn't stop here. Tyler had tasted power, and he had learned that Mom would sacrifice my happiness to manage his manufactured emergencies. He was already planning to make me leave so I can be the only child again. I looked around my bedroom, really seeing it for the first time in months. Tyler had been slowly moving his belongings into my space over the past few weeks. His extra gaming chair sat in my corner. His sports equipment was stacked against my closet door. His clothes were mixed in with mine in the laundry basket. He hadn't just been planning to drive me out of the family. He had been preparing to physically take over my room, my space, my entire place in this house. For the first time in my life, I felt something stronger than hurt or disappointment toward my little brother. I felt genuinely afraid of what he might do next. And for the first time since Dad moved out, I realized that staying in this house might be the biggest mistake I could make for my own future. I spent the next 2 hours sitting on my bedroom floor, methodically packing my most important belongings into 2 large duffel bags, while Tyler's stolen birthday party raged below. The sound of his friends laughing and playing games with my decorations felt like a soundtrack to my liberation rather than my defeat. Every piece of clothing I folded, every book I wrapped in plastic bags, every photograph I tucked safely away, represented a choice I was making about my future. I wasn't running away in anger or desperation. I was making a calculated decision to remove myself from a toxic situation before it destroyed more of my life. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. "Hey son, Tyler called me this morning, upset about some gaming situation. Is everything okay over there? Haven't heard from you in a while." I stared at the message, suddenly understanding another layer of Tyler's manipulation. He had been intercepting communication between Dad and me, creating artificial distance in our relationship, while positioning himself as Dad's primary source of information about our family. I typed back immediately. "Dad, I need to talk to you. Can you pick me up tonight? I have some things to tell you about what's been going on here." "Of course. I've been worried about you. Tyler mentioned you were having some attitude problems and didn't want to see me anymore. My jaw clenched. Even when Tyler was manipulating our father against me, he was doing it so smoothly that Dad didn't question the narrative. That's not true at all, Dad. Tyler has been lying to you about a lot of things. I'll be there at 8. We can talk properly. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Dad still cared about me. Tyler hadn't succeeded in destroying that relationship, just temporarily interfering with it. Next, I called Frank's auto shop. My boss answered on the second ring, his gravelly voice warm with concern. Washington, how are you feeling? Kid Tyler called earlier and said you were thinking about quitting because the work was too stressful. Frank Tyler doesn't speak for me, and I'm definitely not quitting. In fact, I was calling to ask if that full-time position is still available. The one you mentioned last month with the housing situation. Well, of course it's still available. I've been holding it open, hoping you'd be interested. Frank's voice brightened considerably. My apartment above the shop has been empty since my last tenant moved out. It's not fancy, but it's clean and affordable. Perfect for a young man getting started in life. I'm very interested. Could I move in tonight if I pay the first month's rent up front? Tonight? That's pretty sudden, Washington. Everything all right at home? It's complicated, Frank. Family stuff. But I'm ready to be completely independent and focus on building a real career with you. Well, you're 20 years old now. Old enough to make your own decisions about your living situation. Frank's approval came through clearly in his voice. The apartment comes furnished with basic stuff. Just bring your clothes and personal items. We can work out all the details tomorrow morning. Thank you, Frank. This means everything to me. Washington, you're a good kid with a strong work ethic. Whatever's happening at home, you've got a bright future ahead of you. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. I hung up, feeling more hopeful than I had in months. Frank saw my potential and valued my contributions in a way my own family never had. Working for him full-time would give me financial independence, practical skills, and the kind of father figure support I had been missing since the divorce. My next call was to Jake, my best friend since middle school. Dude, what's really going on? Jake's voice was full of concern. Your mom sounded super sketchy when she called about the food poisoning thing. And Tyler posted on Instagram about some epic gaming party happening at your house today. On your birthday. It's a long story, Jake, but I'm moving out tonight. Tyler basically stole my birthday party and convinced Mom to cancel everything for his fake emergency. That's messed up, Washington. Where are you going to live? My boss at the auto shop offered me his apartment upstairs. It's actually a perfect setup. Full-time work, my own place, complete independence. Good for you, man. Your family situation has been getting progressively weirder since your parents split up. Tyler's been acting like a spoiled brat, and your mom just enables him constantly. Jake's validation meant more to me than I had expected. I had been so deep inside the family dysfunction that I hadn't realized how obvious it was to outside observers. Can you help me move some boxes tonight? I don't have much stuff, but I could use a hand getting everything to Frank's place. Absolutely. This actually sounds like a really positive step for your future. You're way too mature and driven to be stuck managing Tyler's tantrums for the rest of your life. After I hung up with Jake, I sat down at my desk and wrote a letter to my mother. Not an angry rant or an emotional plea, but a clear, factual explanation of my decision. Mom, I wrote, I'm moving out tonight to focus on my independence and career. Tyler's manipulation and attention-seeking behavior has created an environment where I can't grow or thrive. I need space to build my own life without walking on eggshells around his manufactured crises. You can reach me through Dad if you need anything important. I hope Tyler gets the help he needs to develop healthier coping strategies. Love, Washington. I folded the letter and placed it on my pillow where she would eventually find it. As I packed my final bag, I could hear Tyler downstairs bragging to his friends about how he had totally dominated the family politics today. His voice carried no shame, no regret, only pride in his successful manipulation. My brother thinks he's so smart, Tyler was saying, but I figured out exactly how to get everything I wanted. Now I can have the whole house to myself whenever I want Mom's attention. What if he gets mad and tells your parents what you did? One of his friends asked. He won't. Washington is too nice to cause real drama. He'll just sulk in his room and eventually get over it. That's what he always does. Tyler had no idea I was about to prove him completely wrong about my character and my willingness to remove myself from his games entirely. I zipped up my final bag and looked around the bedroom I had lived in since elementary school. I felt no sadness about leaving this space. Instead, I felt excited about creating a new environment that would be entirely my own. At exactly 8 o'clock, I heard Dad's car pull into the driveway. I grabbed my bags, picked up the letter for Mom, and walked downstairs where Tyler's party was still in full swing. Tyler looked up from his new gaming setup, clearly surprised to see me carrying luggage. "Where are you going, Washington?" His voice carried a note of confusion, as if this development wasn't part of his master plan. "I'm moving out, Tyler. Congratulations. You got exactly what you wanted." I placed my house key and the letter on the kitchen counter, right next to the birthday cake Tyler and his friends had been eating. "You can't just leave." Tyler's voice got higher, almost panicked. "Who's going to help me set up my room and fix things when they break?" I looked at my 13-year-old brother, really seeing him clearly for the first time. Under all his manipulation and scheming, he was still a child who had no idea what he was actually asking for when he wished me out of his life. "You wanted to be the only child, Tyler. Figure it out yourself." I walked out the front door without looking back, feeling lighter with every step toward Dad's car and the beginning of my real adult life. Dad's apartment was a modest 2-bedroom place across town, but it felt like a palace after the tension I had been living with at Mom's house. We stayed up until nearly 2 in the morning, while I explained everything Tyler had been doing, showing Dad the screenshots of the Discord conversations I had discovered. I had no idea it was this bad, Washington. Dad's face was grim as he scrolled through the evidence of Tyler's manipulation. "He's been calling me regularly, painting you as rebellious and disrespectful. I thought you were just going through a difficult phase. Tyler's been systematically isolating me from everyone who cares about me," I explained. "He destroyed my relationship with Megan, interfered with my job, intercepted my college mail, and today, he stole my birthday party. All part of some plan to drive me out of the house. This level of manipulation from a 13-year-old is deeply concerning." Dad set his coffee cup down with a heavy sigh. "Your mother needs to understand what's been happening, but I suspect she won't want to hear it. She's so afraid of Tyler calling you and asking to move here permanently that she'll do anything to keep him happy. He's learned to weaponize that fear." Dad was quiet for a long moment, processing the full scope of the dysfunction. "Son, I want you to know that you're welcome to live here as long as you need. But it sounds like you've made a mature decision about your independence. Frank's apartment is perfect for me right now. I can work full-time, save money, and build real skills without dealing with Tyler's constant drama." The next morning, I moved into the studio apartment above Frank's auto shop. It was small but clean, with a kitchenette, a fold-out couch, and a bathroom with surprisingly good water pressure. Most importantly, it was mine. Frank helped me carry my bags upstairs, his weathered face creased with concern. "You sure about this? Washington 20 is pretty young to be completely on your own." "I'm ready, Frank. I've been managing a lot of adult responsibilities at home anyway. This just makes it official." "Well, you've got good instincts and a strong work ethic. Those will take you far in life." Frank handed me the keys with a paternal smile. "My daughter, Amy, lives in the apartment complex down the street. She's about your age, working her way through community college. Might be nice for you to have a friend nearby." Amy turned out to be a blessing I hadn't expected. She stopped by that evening with a casserole and helped me organize my tiny kitchen space. She was studying automotive technology herself, hoping to eventually run her own shop, and we discovered an easy friendship built around our shared interests and work ethic. "Dad talks about you constantly. Amy said as we arranged my few belongings. He says you have a natural talent for engine diagnostics and customer service. Frank's been more of a father figure to me lately than my actual father was able to be, I admitted. My family situation got pretty toxic. Family drama can be the worst kind of stress. Sometimes the healthiest thing is to step away and build your own life. By Wednesday, I had settled into a comfortable routine of work, simple cooking, and evening conversations with Amy. For the first time in months, I felt peaceful and optimistic about my future. That's when Mom started calling. "Washington, honey, where are you?" Her voice was frantic, almost hysterical. "I found your note, but I don't understand why you left so suddenly." Mom, I explained everything in the letter. Tyler's manipulation had gotten out of control, and I needed space to focus on my own life. Tyler is just going through a difficult adjustment period. Dr. Martinez says boys his age often act out when they feel insecure about family changes. I rubbed my temples, feeling the familiar frustration of trying to communicate with someone who refused to see obvious reality. Mom, Tyler systematically destroyed my relationship with Megan, interfered with my job, and intercepted my college mail. This isn't normal sibling rivalry. Those are very serious accusations, Washington. Tyler said you've been feeling paranoid lately and blaming him for your own problems. Of course, Tyler had already prepared her for the possibility that I might tell the truth. He was always 3 steps ahead in his manipulation games. Mom, I have screenshots of Tyler bragging to his friends about sabotaging different areas of my life. He planned the whole birthday party disaster weeks in advance. I don't want to see doctored computer conversations, Washington. Tyler is devastated that you abandoned the family. He's been crying every night since you left. I felt a familiar surge of guilt, followed immediately by clarity. Tyler's tears were probably as manufactured as his broken console crisis. How are things going at home otherwise, Mom? Well, it's been challenging. For the first time, her voice wavered with uncertainty. Tyler has been having some behavioral difficulties now that you're not here to help mediate his emotions. What kind of difficulties? He's been refusing to do his chores or homework. Yesterday, he threw a tantrum when I asked him to clean his room, and he broke the lamp in the hallway. This morning, he told me I was a terrible mother for letting you abandon him. I felt no satisfaction in hearing about Tyler's escalating behavior, only sadness for Mom's situation. But I also felt clarity about my decision to remove myself from that dynamic. Mom, Tyler's behavior problems aren't my responsibility to manage. He needs professional help and consistent boundaries from you. I can't handle him alone, Washington. He listens to you in ways he doesn't listen to me. He doesn't listen to me, Mom. He manipulates both of us in different ways to get what he wants. The difference is that I finally recognized the pattern and removed myself from it. There was a long silence on the phone before Mom spoke again, her voice small and defeated. Can you just come home for a few hours this weekend? Maybe we can all sit down and work through this family crisis together. I'm not coming back to help manage Tyler's behavior, Mom. I'm building my own life now. After I hung up, Amy knocked on my door with 2 cups of hot chocolate. Rough conversation, she asked, settling onto my couch. My mom wants me to come back and help handle my brother's tantrums. She can't understand that removing myself from that situation was the healthiest choice I could make. Sounds like your brother has trained your whole family to revolve around his emotional needs. That's exhausting to live with. Amy's clear-eyed perspective was exactly what I needed. She could see the dysfunction from the outside in ways that I was still learning to recognize. Frank mentioned you're planning to apply for community college. She asked, changing the subject to something more positive. Yeah, I want to get certified in automotive technology and business management. Eventually, I'd like to run my own shop. That's amazing. We could study together. I'm in the same program. As we talked about our shared goals and dreams, I realized how different my life felt when I was surrounded by people who supported my growth instead of people who needed constant emotional management. My phone buzzed with another call from Mom, but I let it go to voicemail. I was learning that my peace of mind was worth protecting, even when it meant disappointing the people who had trained me to sacrifice my well-being for their comfort. Tyler had wanted me out of the family, and he had succeeded. But instead of the victory, he had imagined he was discovering that my absence left a much bigger hole in the family system than anyone had expected. The irony was that Tyler was finally getting exactly what he had asked for, and he was learning the hard way that being the only child meant being the only target for Mom's expectations and consequences. 3 weeks into my new life at Frank's auto shop, I was thriving in ways I had never imagined possible. My mechanical skills were improving rapidly. With full-time practice, I had saved enough money to buy my first car tools, and my friendship with Amy was developing into something that felt like it might become romantic. Frank promoted me to shop manager after I successfully diagnosed a complex electrical problem that had been stumping him for days. Washington, you've got an intuitive understanding of how these systems work together, Frank said, handing me a set of shop keys. I'm making you my official assistant manager. 25% raise health insurance and profit sharing at the end of the year. I felt prouder of that promotion than I had ever felt about any achievement in my previous life. Frank's recognition was based on merit, consistency, and genuine contribution, rather than family politics or emotional manipulation. Thank you, Frank. This means everything to me. You've earned it, son. Hard work and integrity always pay off in the end. That evening, Amy and I celebrated my promotion with pizza and a movie in my apartment. Somewhere during the second film, she curled up next to me on the couch, and I realized how natural it felt to have someone in my life who genuinely enjoyed my company without drama or hidden agendas. I'm proud of you, Amy said softly. You took a really scary leap when you moved out of your family home, and you've built something good for yourself. It feels strange to be this happy when my family situation is such a disaster. You don't owe your family your misery, Washington. You deserve to be around people who want to see you succeed. The next morning, Dad called with news that shattered my peaceful progress. Son, your brother was arrested yesterday. My stomach dropped. Arrested for what? Vandalism and destruction of property. Apparently, he threw a massive tantrum when your neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, asked him to stop riding his bike through her flower garden. Tyler took a baseball bat to her car and smashed out both headlights and the windshield. I sat down heavily in my desk chair. Is he okay? Is Mrs. Patterson pressing charges? Mrs. Patterson is furious, and rightfully so. The damage to her car is going to cost over $2,000 to repair. Tyler is being charged with a misdemeanor, and he has to appear in juvenile court next month. How is Mom handling this? That's the thing, Washington. Your mother called me in complete hysteria, begging me to take Tyler for a few weeks while she sorts things out. She's having some kind of breakdown. My first instinct was guilt. Maybe if I had stayed and continued helping Mom manage Tyler's behavior, this escalation could have been prevented. But then I remembered Amy's words about not owing my family my misery. Dad, Tyler's arrest isn't my fault. His behavior has been escalating for months, and Mom chose to enable it instead of getting him professional help. I know that, son. I'm not calling to blame you for anything. I'm calling because your mother specifically asked me to contact you about testifying as a character witness for Tyler's court case. She wants me to what? She thinks if you tell the judge what a good kid Tyler really is, it might help with his sentencing. She's convinced this was just a one-time mistake caused by the stress of you leaving the family. I felt anger flare in my chest. Even now, even after Tyler's manipulation had led to criminal behavior, Mom was trying to make his actions my responsibility. Dad, I am not going to lie in court to protect Tyler from the consequences of his own choices. His arrest has nothing to do with me, and everything to do with the fact that he's never been held accountable for his behavior. I was hoping you'd say that. Tyler needs to learn that his actions have real consequences, not be rescued by family members who enable his worst impulses. How are things at Mom's house otherwise? According to your mother, it's a complete disaster. Tyler has been refusing to help with any household responsibilities since you left. The bills aren't getting paid because apparently you were handling most of the online banking. The house is falling apart because you were doing maintenance that nobody else knew how to do. I had been so focused on my own growth and healing that I hadn't considered how much invisible labor I had been providing for my family's daily functioning. Tyler had been so determined to get rid of me that he hadn't thought through what my absence would actually mean for the household systems. Mom never realized how much you were contributing to keeping that house running smoothly, Dad continued. Tyler's fantasy about being the only child didn't include taking on adult responsibilities. What's she going to do? Honestly, Washington, I think she's finally starting to see Tyler's behavior patterns clearly, now that she doesn't have you there to blame for family problems. It's harder to maintain denial when there's only one child left to focus on. That afternoon, my phone rang with Mom's number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Washington, please. I need your help. Mom's voice was raw, exhausted in a way I had never heard before. Tyler was arrested, and I don't know what to do. I can't afford a lawyer, I can't pay for Mrs. Patterson's car repairs, and Tyler is completely out of control. I'm sorry you're dealing with this, Mom, but Tyler's legal problems aren't my responsibility. I know. But maybe you could just come to the court hearing and tell the judge that Tyler isn't normally like this, that he's just been acting out because of family stress. Mom, Tyler is exactly like this. He's manipulative, entitled, and he's never faced real consequences for hurting other people. Mrs. Patterson's car is just the latest example. You don't understand how hard this has been for me, Washington. Tyler has been impossible to live with since you left. He blames me for driving you away, and he takes it out on me every single day. For the first time in my life, I heard Mom acknowledging Tyler's manipulation without making excuses for it. He calls me names, refuses to do simple chores, and yesterday, he told me I was a failure as a mother. I've been crying myself to sleep every night. I'm sorry Tyler is treating you that way, Mom. That's not acceptable behavior from anyone, regardless of their age. I think I've made some mistakes in how I've handled his emotional outbursts over the years. Mom's voice was quiet, reflective. I was so afraid of him calling your father and threatening to move out that I gave in to demands I should have stood firm against. This was the closest Mom had ever come to acknowledging the dysfunctional family dynamics that had driven me away. Tyler needs professional counseling and consistent boundaries, Mom, not character witnesses helping him avoid consequences for criminal behavior. I can't afford therapy right now, Washington. Tyler's court fees and Mrs. Patterson's car repairs are going to wipe out my savings account. Then, maybe it's time to consider Dad's offer to take Tyler for a while. Dad has health insurance that covers mental health services. There was a long pause before Mom responded. I'm scared that if Tyler moves in with your father, I'll lose him permanently. Mom, you're going to lose Tyler anyway if he doesn't get help for his behavior problems. The difference is whether you lose him to Dad's house or to the juvenile justice system. After we hung up, I felt emotionally drained, but also clearer than ever about the boundaries I needed to maintain. Mom was finally starting to see Tyler's manipulation clearly, but she was still looking for ways to avoid facing the full scope of the problem. That evening, Amy found me sitting on my apartment steps, staring at the sunset. Rough day, she asked, settling down beside me. My brother was arrested for vandalizing a neighbor's car. My mom wants me to testify as a character witness to help him avoid consequences. Are you going to do it? Absolutely not. Tyler needs to learn that his actions have real-world consequences that can't be manipulated away. Amy squeezed my hand supportively. It takes courage to let someone you love face the results of their own choices instead of rescuing them. The weird thing is that I'm happier now than I've been in years. I feel guilty about that when my family is falling apart. Your family was already falling apart, Washington. You just stopped participating in the dysfunction. There's a big difference between causing problems and refusing to enable them. As we sat together in comfortable silence, I realized that my decision to leave my family's toxic dynamics hadn't just saved my own future. It had also forced everyone else to confront patterns they had been able to ignore when I was there to absorb Tyler's manipulation and clean up the consequences of his behavior. Tyler had wanted me gone, and now he was discovering that getting his wish meant losing the person who had been protecting him from the full weight of his own actions. 2 months after Tyler's arrest, Dad arranged a family meeting at a neutral location to discuss Tyler's upcoming court date. Mom had been calling both Dad and me repeatedly begging for family unity during Tyler's legal crisis, and Dad finally agreed to one conversation with everyone present. We met at a family restaurant downtown on a Saturday afternoon. I arrived early with Dad feeling nervous about seeing Mom and Tyler for the first time since my birthday disaster. Amy had offered to come for moral support, but I wanted to handle this confrontation independently. Tyler looked smaller than I remembered, his face pale, and his usual cocky demeanor replaced by sullen anxiety. Mom appeared exhausted, her hair unwashed, and her clothes wrinkled as if she hadn't been sleeping well for weeks. "Washington, thank you for coming." Mom's voice was strained but hopeful. "I've missed you so much, honey." "Hi, Mom. Hi, Tyler." Tyler mumbled something that might have been a greeting but refused to make eye contact. Dad took charge of the conversation immediately. "We're here to discuss Tyler's court appearance next week and his overall behavioral patterns that led to this situation. I think we're all overreacting to what was essentially a childhood mistake." Mom began slipping back into her familiar pattern of minimizing Tyler's actions. Tyler was having an emotional crisis, and Mrs. Patterson escalated the situation by threatening to call the police. "Tyler destroyed over $2,000 worth of property with a baseball bat," Dad said firmly. "That's not a childhood mistake. That's criminal behavior." Tyler finally spoke up, his voice defensive and angry. Mrs. Patterson was being completely unreasonable. "I was just riding my bike, and she started screaming at me like I was some kind of criminal." "You were riding your bike through her flower garden after she asked you repeatedly to stop," I said quietly. "And your response was to attack her car with a weapon." "You don't know what you're talking about, Washington. You weren't even there because you abandoned your family like a selfish coward." I felt the old familiar trigger of Tyler's blame and manipulation, but this time, it didn't hook me emotionally. I had learned to recognize his tactics and respond from a place of clarity rather than guilt. "Tyler, my decision to move out had nothing to do with your choice to vandalize Mrs. Patterson's car. You're responsible for your own behavior, not me. Everything was fine until you left." Tyler's voice got louder, drawing stares from other restaurant patrons. Mom was happy the house was running smoothly, and I didn't have to deal with all this stress and drama. "Actually, Tyler, everything was not fine." I pulled out my phone and showed Dad the screenshots I had taken of Tyler's Discord conversations months earlier. Before I left, I discovered that Tyler had been systematically sabotaging different areas of my life as part of a plan to drive me out of the family. Dad examined the evidence while Mom's face went white. "Tyler, is this real?" Dad's voice was dangerously quiet. "I don't know what Washington is talking about. Those could be fake or taken out of context." "You told your friends you destroyed my relationship with Megan by calling her and lying about me cheating. You bragged about convincing Mom to throw away my college mail. You planned the birthday party disaster weeks in advance." My voice remained steady, factual. "This isn't childhood acting out, Tyler. This is calculated emotional abuse." Mom grabbed my phone to read the conversations herself. As she scrolled through Tyler's detailed bragging about manipulating our family, her face crumpled with a mixture of horror and recognition. "Tyler, did you really call Megan and lie about your brother? Megan was wrong for Washington anyway. I was doing him a favor by getting rid of her. Did you convince me to throw away his college letters? Washington doesn't need college. He was getting too big for his britches and needed to focus on helping our family more." Dad leaned back in his chair, processing the full scope of Tyler's manipulation. "Tyler, you systematically tried to destroy your brother's relationships, education opportunities, and job prospects. That's not sibling rivalry. That's psychological warfare. I just wanted Mom to pay attention to me for once. Tyler's voice cracked with genuine emotion for the first time. Washington got all the praise for being responsible and mature, and I was tired of being treated like the problem child. So instead of improving your own behavior, you decided to sabotage Washington's life. Mom's voice was hollow with disbelief. It worked, didn't it? Washington left and you had to focus on me. Tyler, Washington left because your behavior made our home environment toxic and unbearable. Dad's voice carried the authority I rarely heard from him. And look what happened after he left. Without Washington there to blame for family problems, your behavior escalated to criminal activity. Tyler's defiance finally cracked completely. I never meant for things to go this far. I just wanted to be the favorite child for once. Mom looked at Tyler with something approaching clarity for the first time in years. Sweetie, you were never competing with Washington for my love. But your behavior has been completely unacceptable, and I've been enabling it by making excuses and asking other people to manage your emotions for me. So what happens now? Tyler asked, his voice small and scared. Dad answered before Mom could slip back into rescue mode. You face the consequences of your choices. You apologize to Mrs. Patterson and pay for the damage to her car with your own money from chores and allowance. You enter counseling to learn better coping strategies. And you accept responsibility for the fact that Washington's decision to move out was a direct result of your systematic abuse. And if I do all that, will Washington come back home? I looked at my 13-year-old brother, seeing both the manipulative schemer who had tried to destroy my life and the insecure child who didn't know how to get attention without creating drama. Tyler, I'm never moving back home. I'm building my own independent life now, and that's what's healthiest for everyone. But if you get professional help and learn to treat people with respect, maybe we can have a normal relationship someday. Tyler started crying, not the performative tears he used to manipulate Mom, but genuine grief over the consequences of his choices. I messed everything up, didn't I? You made some very serious mistakes, I said gently. But you're 13 years old. If you commit to changing your behavior and getting help, you can still learn to build healthy relationships with people. Mom reached across the table to take my hand. Washington, I owe you a massive apology. I should have recognized Tyler's manipulation months ago, instead of asking you to tolerate unacceptable behavior for the sake of family peace. I appreciate that, Mom. I hope Tyler gets the help he needs. As we left the restaurant, Dad pulled me aside. I'm proud of how you handled that conversation, son. You set clear boundaries while still showing compassion for Tyler's struggles. I learned a lot about healthy relationships from Frank and Amy. It's easier to respond calmly when you're not constantly walking on eggshells. 2 weeks later, Tyler pled guilty to vandalism charges and was sentenced to community service and mandatory counseling. Mom started her own therapy to learn how to set boundaries and stop enabling destructive behavior. I didn't attend Tyler's court hearing, but Dad sent me a text afterward. Tyler took full responsibility for his actions and apologized to Mrs. Patterson sincerely. It's a start. The family system that had revolved around managing Tyler's emotions was finally being dismantled piece by piece. Tyler was learning that his behavior had consequences that couldn't be manipulated away, and Mom was learning that protecting Tyler from those consequences had actually been hurting him. Most importantly, I was learning that I could love my family without sacrificing my own well-being to manage their dysfunction. Healthy love didn't require me to absorb other people's manipulations or set myself on fire to keep them warm. 6 months later, I stood at my community college graduation, wearing my cap and gown, looking out at an audience that included Frank, Amy, Dad, and, to my surprise, Mom. Tyler was noticeably absent, but that felt appropriate given our still complicated relationship. My associate degree in automotive technology and business management represented more than just educational achievement. It symbolized the independence I had fought for and the future I was building on my own terms. Frank had tears in his eyes as he cheered from the audience. Over the past year, he had become more than just a boss or a landlord. He had become the father figure I needed during the most transformative period of my life. After the ceremony, Amy bounded up to me with a huge smile and a bouquet of flowers. "I'm so proud of you." She hugged me tightly, and I realized that somewhere along the way, our friendship had deepened into genuine love. Ready for the next adventure? The next adventure was a business partnership. Frank had offered to sell me half ownership of the auto shop, and Amy and I were planning to expand into a full automotive service center with bodywork detailing and custom modifications. "Washington, you've turned into quite the businessman," Dad said, shaking my hand with obvious pride. "Your mother and I are both impressed with everything you've accomplished." Mom approached more hesitantly her relationship with me, still tentative after months of rebuilding trust. "Honey, I'm so sorry I missed so much of this journey. You've grown into an incredible young man, and I wish I had supported your independence instead of trying to hold you back." "Thank you, Mom. How are things going with Tyler?" "Better slowly. The counseling is helping him understand how his behavior affected everyone around him. He's learning to take responsibility for his choices and manage his emotions without manipulation." "Is he ready to have a real conversation with me yet?" "Not quite, but he's making progress. Dr. Richards says Tyler is starting to understand that his actions had real consequences for real people, not just abstract punishments to be avoided." I nodded, feeling cautiously optimistic about the possibility of eventually having a healthy relationship with my brother. But I also felt clear that any relationship would need to be built on Tyler's genuine accountability and change behavior, not on my willingness to tolerate manipulation for the sake of family harmony. "Washington," Frank called out, interrupting my conversation with Mom. "Come over here, I want you to meet someone." Frank was standing next to a distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit who was examining our graduation programs with interest. "This is Mr. Davidson from the Regional Small Business Development Center. He's been following our shop's growth over the past year, and he has some interesting opportunities to discuss with you." Mr. Davidson shook my hand firmly. "Washington, Frank tells me you've transformed his business operations and customer service protocols. We're launching a program to help young entrepreneurs expand their automotive businesses statewide. You might be exactly the kind of innovative thinker we're looking for." As Mr. Davidson explained the mentorship and funding opportunities available through his program, I realized that my decision to leave my toxic family situation hadn't just saved my immediate well-being. It had opened up a completely different trajectory for my entire life. If I had stayed home managing Tyler's tantrums and absorbing his manipulation, I would never have discovered my aptitude for business management or developed the confidence to pursue ambitious goals. Tyler's plan to drive me out of the family had accidentally given me the greatest gift possible, the freedom to discover who I could become when I wasn't constantly managing other people's emotional dysfunction. That evening, Amy and I sat on the steps of our apartment building, watching the sunset and planning our future together. "Do you ever regret leaving your family when you did?" Amy asked, leaning against my shoulder. "Never. Not for a single day." I wrapped my arms around her, feeling grateful for the life we were building together. Tyler wanted me gone, so he could be the center of attention, but he accidentally freed me to find people who actually wanted to see me succeed. "Your brother has no idea what he lost, does he?" I don't think Tyler understood what he was asking for when he wished for me to leave. He wanted the benefits of my presence, help with homework mediation with mom household management, without the competition for attention. But real relationships don't work that way. Amy was quiet for a moment, processing the complexity of sibling dynamics. "Do you think you'll ever be close with Tyler again?" "Maybe if he continues working on himself and learning healthier ways to handle his emotions. But our relationship will never go back to the way it was before. I'm not going back to being his emotional support system or his scapegoat." "Good. You deserve relationships that are based on mutual respect and genuine care. As we sat together planning our business expansion and talking about our dreams for the future, I reflected on everything I had learned over the past year. I had discovered that sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who ask you to sacrifice the most for their comfort. Real love encourages growth, independence, and personal fulfillment, rather than demanding endless emotional labor. Tyler had taught me that manipulation often masquerades as need, and that setting boundaries with family members isn't cruel. It's essential for everyone's healthy development. Mom had taught me that enablement disguised as love actually prevents people from learning the life skills they need to become functional adults. But most importantly, Frank and Amy had taught me what healthy relationships look like when they're built on mutual support, shared goals, and genuine respect for each other's autonomy and growth. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler, his first direct communication with me since our family meeting 6 months ago. Gr. Washington. I know I messed up really bad. I'm working with Dr. Richards on understanding why I acted the way I did. I'm not asking you to forgive me or come back home. I just wanted you to know that I'm starting to understand what I lost when I drove you away. Congratulations on your graduation. Tyler. I showed the message to Amy, who read it thoughtfully. That sounds like genuine accountability, rather than manipulation. It does. It's the first time Tyler has acknowledged that he lost something valuable, instead of positioning himself as the victim of my choices. I typed back a careful response. Thank you for the message, Tyler. I'm glad you're working on understanding your behavior patterns. Keep focusing on your own growth, and maybe we can build something healthier between us eventually. It wasn't forgiveness, and it wasn't an invitation back into the old family dynamics, but it was an opening for Tyler to prove that he could change through consistent actions over time. As Amy and I headed inside to celebrate my graduation with Frank and the friends we had made in our automotive technology program, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude for the life I had built. Tyler had gotten exactly what he asked for when he drove me out of our family home. But instead of the victory, he had imagined he had learned that being the center of attention meant being the center of accountability too. I had found my real family among people who wanted to see me thrive, rather than people who needed me to stay small, to manage their own emotional dysfunction. Sometimes, the best gift someone can give you is pushing you toward the independence you were too scared to claim for yourself. Tyler's manipulation had accidentally been the catalyst for the most positive transformation of my entire life. And that's a lesson I carry with me every day. When someone shows you through their actions that they don't value your presence, believe them. But don't let their rejection define your worth. Instead, use their dismissal as motivation to find the people who will recognize your value and fight for your success rather than against it. Your real family isn't always the people you're born to. Sometimes, it's the people who choose to stand beside you when you're building the life you actually want to live. Speaking of building the life you want, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice between family loyalty and your own well-being? How did you handle a situation where someone you loved was manipulating or undermining your goals? Share your experiences in the comments below, because these conversations help all of us learn and grow from each other's journeys. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like to help others find it who might need to hear this message. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about family dynamics, personal growth, and finding the courage to build healthier relationships. And if you know someone who's struggling with toxic family patterns, please share this video with them. Sometimes we need to see our situation reflected in someone else's story before we can recognize our own patterns clearly. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it helps you trust your instincts about the relationships and situations that are truly serving your highest good. Remember, you deserve to be around people who celebrate your success, rather than people who need you to stay small to feel comfortable about themselves. Until next time, keep building the life that makes you proud to be exactly who you are.